What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are going to be doing another 2-round mock draft. It is Mock Draft Monday, so y'all know what it is. 2 rounds, no trades, 1 video. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe to that fun YouTube jazz. Below my face is my board. Below that are the amazing opportunities and places to be able to get connected and get exclusive offers for being able to participate with the show. So let's get into this. Let's have some fun. On the way to 10K by the end of the year. Fingers crossed. Let's have some fun. Starting out with the number 1 overall pick, we have the Chicago Bears. I'm going to have 1 trade in this because I just do not see Chicago or Arizona sitting here at 1 if one of the other takes Marvin Harrison Jr. It just naturally is going to be an absolute shit show if like Marvin Harrison Jr. goes at 1 and then the Falcons stay at 2. Naturally, you have 2 of the best quarterbacks of all time. So I'm going to have that little caveat in here. I was going to do it for last week, and then by the grace of the Lord himself, we actually didn't have to deal with that because Arizona was, not beaten out by the Giants, and the Giants were able to be there at pick number 2. So there is going to be that one minor exception in this. But for number 1 overall pick, we are going to be going Marvin Harrison Jr. I saw Justin Fields this past week, and he was able to, remain relatively in it versus the pretty strong, pretty powerful juggernaut of the Lions. Jared Goff had something to do with that because, he naturally was not doing very good at all. But, Justin actually looked like he has, you're seeing the potential really start to flourish. And, it's a late bloomer, no doubt. But, sometimes it's okay to give a guy a real chance. And for me, I'm going to give Justin Fields that chance. We're going to see what quarterbacks come out in the future. I just don't know. Like Caleb Williams, he lost this past week again. But, unlike a lot of those other ranked games where he didn't perform statistically that well, he did a really good job versus UCLA. He had over 300 yards. He didn't have any turnover-worthy plays. He had some huge big-time throws. Like Caleb ended off on a statistical high note, and when you watch him, you understand that he played pretty damn well. And there were a lot of external factors that led to Caleb Williams not winning that game. But that point aside, I'm not going to try to say that Justin Fields is better than Caleb Williams because I don't think he is. However, I do think that when you see the potential of Justin Fields actually being the quarterback that you drafted him to be, the quarterback that we all thought he should be, then it's worth investing elsewhere. You're not going to find another Marvin Harrison Jr. probably for a very long time. It's not going to be Luther Burden. And I love Luther Burden. We're going to be getting a 2025 mock draft very soon, maybe this week. That's not a promise, but that's a hope. A hope. We'll see what happens. But Marvin Harrison Jr. going to be the number 1 overall pick. Just had to describe that right there. And pick number 2 for the Cardinals. This is going to be the trade out, the one exception, because if we had to stay here, there's just no one that I find remotely worth it for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray is a beast. I'm not drafting another quarterback for this team. I'm not. You have way too much money wrapped up in that position too. So financially and just roster specifically, you are not built for it. So the Giants are going to be trading for this pick. It makes sense. And maybe you can do your own negotiating, right? What I do know is that it will be taking that number 37 overall pick to move up. This is relatively realistic. You do have to give up a shit ton to be able to move up to pick number 2. Now, the fact is, like, we could toss out the 3rd and, toss in a 4th, or, maybe Arizona isn't that greedy, but ultimately you could do the negotiate on 2025 part. Arizona, they want big plays. They want big playmakers. And this is the way you're going to do it. You have a bunch of holes on your roster. Honestly, your team has been playing up to par with what you should have been doing. So, I feel like you're going to be able to take advantage, and this team could have a massive accelerant in their own division where, we'll see what happens. With the trades that will come tomorrow, we will definitely be making some moves with some other teams in your own division. But for the time being, the Giants, you need a quarterback. You do. I don't know why Tommy DeVito is just becoming Caleb Williams, but why not get the real deal? Now, Caleb Williams being, I'm not going to talk to I'm not going to talk to the media, Mr. 5 losses versus ranked teams this year. Like, there's some legitimate concerns, no doubt. However, this is a system built for him as long as you continue to surround him with weapons. And there should be some cap flexibility in the future for it, but this is just a guy that you don't want to miss out on. For Chicago, they have someone who has similar talent upside as Caleb Williams. That's an excuse to legitimately pass on him. This team definitely doesn't. You need a quarterback. I could have traded up here maybe with another team, but this is one of those spots where I really just want to get it right. I really do. Another team would have traded up. I know that for a fact. I mean, hell, if Washington wanted to, I'd be willing to move up with Washington. If the Buccaneers were wanting to, this is a legitimate target for teams to move up. So that is the end of my spiel there. The Patriots need a QB. They're having a quarterback debate right now as to who they're going to be starting because neither one are necessarily good enough. And Drake May, even though he lost this past week, it was no fault of his own. I mean, he had 1 interception, sure. But when it comes down to it, Omari and Hampton having 2 key fumbles kills momentum. And the fact is, one of those fumbles, if I'm not mistaken, was on a touchdown play. Like, that's just a killer. So Drake May is still spectacular. Starting off the draft the way we normally do. At pick number 4 for the Bears, I would consider Olu Fashanu here. I normally like to do that. Like, that's normally what I rock out. I want to explore some other options. Jerzon Johnny Newton is certainly one. I would, of course, trade back normally to do that, but Johnny Newton is an option that I think would be a really fun trade back spot for you guys to be able to target. Because I'm not able to, I do love the idea of Brock Bowers. I think Cole Kmet is great. Of course, having Marvin Harrison, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, and Brock Bowers seems to be better. But at the same time, it is true. Sometimes you have too many mouths to feed, and it could cause more issues by adding better players. So I'm going to go the standard Olu Fashanu pick. Joe Alt, to be fair, I could go Joe Alt above Olu Fashanu. I could. I don't think that'd be a bad move. I don't think that'd be bad at all. I think Joe Alt has been one of the more consistent tackles since he had just a rocky start. He had a rocky start to the year, and he's been easily one of the best players. I will not fault you for going that route. Maybe we could do it and just change up the mood of the draft, and sure, why not? Because you're either going to get the high upside player who is shown to have weaknesses versus power, or a Joe Alt who might lack the pure power to stand up as a top 5 offensive tackle in the NFL. But he probably will be a top 15. So do you want top 15 but consistent, or potential top 5? That's your own MO. And I think the other team that would draft the other player would be pretty happy with either one. At pick number 5, so yes, the one trade is out of the way. So no more trades. We have Olu Fashanu, Brock Bowers, Jerzon Johnny Newton here. I love Johnny Newton to the squad. I think their defensive interior needs a lot of help. Of course, during this video, we will be targeting 1, if not 2, interior defensive linemen. I think it's a little bit early for me to go after defensive interior. Y'all know it's like muscle memory at this point. I need to go after a top tier corner if there is one on the board. Nate Wiggins even got burnt for 70-something yards this week. He got an interception, hallelujah, and he's a good run defender. But, there really is 1 or 2 creme de la creme corners in this class, maybe 3 if you toss Nate Wiggins in there. This team needs one of them, and I'm not going to have one there at 21. I will have some defensive interiors there at 21. I'll have some other really good players there at 21. I will not have a good corner. So, knowing that, you got to take what you can. And I'm going to take Kool-Aid McKinstry. At pick number 6, this is going to be Olu Fashanu. Brock Bowers would be a great weapon. I'm being a little bit arrogant when I pass on Brock Bowers for y'all because of the fact that, I just hope Chig could be the player that I wanted him to be out of Maryland, but he's not so far. He had flashes, which is great. I think Josh Wiley could potentially step up in the future, but, when you get Olu Fashanu, that's the obvious, easy pick. And again, what happens if the Bears wanted Olu Fashanu? You get Joe Alt. Either way, you're winning. So Olu Fashanu going to be a massive addition there at that left tackle spot. At pick number 17, Offensive line wouldn't be a bad idea here. But when you have Brock Bowers on the board, spend the money in free agency on tackles too. You have some good veterans on your own roster that have flashes. They're not consistent enough for me to really like them. I'm trying to remember. I think Cornelius Lucas just absolutely smashed. I'm forgetting the edge rusher. It was Boye Mafe. I'm pretty sure. I remember seeing a clip. I'm pretty sure that was Cornelius Lucas who absolutely destroyed Boye Mafe on a couple reps. Just really powerful hands. I want to see that more often. That right tackle spot still is atrocious, but we'll deal with that. Hopefully in this mock draft, but without trades, a little bit SOL. At pick number 8, though, with the Falcons, we are definitely going to be looking at a quarterback. Edge rusher is a consideration for sure. Glad to see. Yeah, we're getting JJ McCarthy to fall down. We'll have our stock report coming out later this week as well. I actually have everything already down for it, but we'll go with someone who had 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. Granted, only I think one big time throw, so it shows that majority to Troy Franklin for the most part. But Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, both of these guys are excellent operators of this system where I would want my quarterback to be mobile, so both of them fit. I want him to have a big enough arm. Both of these guys fit. I want my quarterback to have the ability to be a little bit more pinpoint and a bigger game manager. I think Bo Nix has the higher end consistency and pinpoint accuracy. Jaden Daniels can challenge that, but that is no slight to Jaden Daniels. I'm just saying Bo Nix is that good. So we're going to go Bo. Granted, I have an image of Jaden Daniels in a Falcons uniform that looks absolutely incredible. So thank you to the Draft Network for making that jersey swap. And I would love to put it on a nice thumbnail one of these times, but not for this video. Pick number 9. A lot of people are shitting on Jordan Love, including myself. I've done that plenty of times. And I do think it should be at least in the consideration for this pick. However, I'm not going to do that. I think Jordan Love has had enough flashes to where I feel more comfortable. Talise Fuaga, we'll talk about him later this week. He's going to be a stock down guy. Allowed 3 pressures. Granted, it's versus another top 10 player on the board, so one of them was going to fall. Talise is the one to fall. Braylon Trice had 6 pressures this past week, and 3 of them versus Talise Fuaga. You just got to call it as it is. That is not good. Talise has now had multiple 3+ pressure games this year. That to me is a little bit worrisome. Granted, most of the tackles in this class have. But for someone like me, where I was starting to try to believe in him like he is generational, I jumped the gun a little too early. Now, can he become generational? Absolutely. Do I think he fits the MO of the Packers? Absolutely. He's going to be an immediate asset in the run game. He is extremely mobile. He has unbelievable upside. I'm still going to take him for the Packers. I think he just has the mentality of an NFC North offensive lineman. But I have to also say, Talise needs to be more patient. He needs to learn from his mistakes. And so far, he hasn't really done that at Oregon State. Now, I don't trust Oregon State to be the best offensive line coaches in the world. So there is obviously that extreme hope, hence why he's still number 7 on my board. Pick number 10 for the Buccaneers. Don't feel like this is a big issue here. You got Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix. Apparently somebody brought up the fact, and I got to do more research on it, so if I end up finding a little bit more information on it, y'all feel free to comment down below as well. Jaden Daniels is extremely high on their board. I'm not there yet with him. I think he's doing a phenomenal job. Don't get me wrong. He really has turned it on in this final season. I'm going to go Michael Penix because the success the Buccaneers have had with Baker, if you just add a little bit extra juice to that, you are going to get even better with Michael Penix. But I do have to say, if that is true, I will be more than happy to throw in Jaden Daniels because if the story is there, sometimes it's nice to play with the idea of what could happen. At pick number 11 for the Jets, my lord. Speak of a team that could use a backup quarterback. I'm not going to waste the shot on it this time. We're going to go Amarius. Just kidding. We're having Amarius Mims return, by the way. This poor guy is still in a timeshare with Xavier Truss. He's still coming back from injury, playing 30 reps a game. He's going to return to school. He's going to be a top 10 pick. So J.C. Latham is going to be the selection here. Just he's been very, very consistent. Another guy who's had a couple 3-pressure games here and there, multi-pressure games, but regardless, he's been taking more steps up than I've seen from most of the other tackles, and I give credit where credit's due. I love seeing tackles that develop their game, and this is a team that, especially after Becton just went down with a little ankle injury, you're still seeing how damn thin that offensive line is. I don't believe in Max Mitchell. I don't really believe in Carter Warren, but that's somebody who I'm not really concerned with at the moment because there's not really a good option on the board. J.C. Latham, however, is. So we're going to be going J.C. Latham there to protect Aaron Rodgers in the final push. At pick number 12, it sucks to see Quentin Johnston just, blow a game like that. Somebody who I had a lot of faith in. I didn't think he was that spectacular when I saw him in person here versus SMU, but that Oklahoma State game was mind-boggling. It was beautiful how he looked like DeAndre Hopkins out there. And of course, it's not all over. Some people just have a really rocky start. Now, can he bounce back? Let's hope. Is it guaranteed that he's going to bounce back? No. He has unfortunately not shown very many signs of being an elite player the way that we kind of wanted him to. But I think the easy way to start this off is just to get something right. And let's get Jerzon Newton. Defensive interior is a position that is a big need. Looking at your roster, could go a corner or two here for sure. But for me, just get something right and then start trying to get a little bit more fluff, a little bit more pizzazz to your roster. Pick number 13 for the Rams. Pretty gritty win that y'all got there. And, it's kind of weird to see the Seahawks look so mortal versus a team that definitely shouldn't be in this range, to put it honestly. Looking at the offensive linemen available, there's nobody who's worth this pick. Again, I'm assuming Amarius Mims is going to return. Just, again, young, injured. He should be a top 10 pick. It's just very logical to assume that. I'm making it harder on myself. And it would be a much better mock draft if I could just toss Amarius Mims right here. However, I'm not down to make a better sounding mock draft. I'd rather just be like, screw it. Let's see what happens. And, Nate Wiggins could be a really good Ram. Yeah, I do think that ACC schools have been pretty high on the priority list for the Rams, and they're looking for a boundary corner, and Nate Wiggins has been a good run defender as well. So regardless of the outcome as a pure pass defender, he has also proven to be very versatile by being an asset in the run game. He's a little bit on the lighter side. However, this is a position the Rams should be looking to draft and develop. And this is a guy with a ton of potential. So I do feel like since they are ACC focused, I'm going to take him over my guy in Kalen King. However, I do feel like you could go either way here. If Nate Wiggins is on the board for the Raiders, you could consider it. But y'all need a quarterback. And it's pretty obvious Jaden Daniels is the next best thing. So, I know y'all liked that last week, and especially this week even more. Aiden O'Connell was someone who I really loved. He was a 3rd-round pick. To me, he was a backup with upside. Makes sense, right? Like, that's the type of guy. Brock Purdy, to me, was like that. Even though Brock has ascended to unbelievable heights, Brock was still a top 100 player for me. Same thing with AOC, because I think he was 100 on my board. So, I don't think that it's all over for Aiden O'Connell. But the fact is, he's proven that he belongs on a roster. He's going to be a career backup. And that's great for him. It's great for his family. It's great for his career. He's going to be at least viable for a lot of teams that are looking for somebody to maybe even challenge a rookie. Like the Raiders could have him challenge Jaden Daniels. Totally different idea, totally different philosophy with Jaden. But the potential is there. He just has some real juice to his game that might be worth swinging for if you're the Raiders, where not much is going really right, except for, the coach y'all have right now. He's doing a great job. But, this is a great way to have, maybe if the coaching loves Jaden Daniels, you can have the excitement in both the front office as well as on the roster. That's going to be a good way to get the juices flowing for the Raiders to have something going for them in this division. At pick number 15 for the Colts. So the Colts, there's a lot of great options on the board. To me, if there are top tier DBs on the board for the Colts, that's exactly the first place I go. I love Cooper DeJean. Obviously in Iowa, you're relatively close to Indiana. it's pretty easy for the scouts to have a lot of experience watching Cooper DeJean, especially watching him go all over, even in Notre Dame, which is in Indiana. Like, they've seen Cooper DeJean firsthand, and that's great because he's a great player. This is a very logical pick. However, I do feel like I would be more comfortable, filling in Cooper DeJean's role as a slot/safety with somebody later on than a true boundary corner like Kalen King. And to be fair, Pennsylvania is relatively close as well. I know we're in the modern era. You get to watch everybody everywhere. But when your scouts get to fall in love with somebody in person, there just is something special to that. And when Kalen King ends up delivering a massive hit, and, he's unbelievable, especially at sniffing out wide receiver bubble screens. This guy is your dude to blow that up. And he's not even 6 foot. So you get to have somebody who he plays much larger than he is. And he's going to be a massive asset. He fits the physical profile that you're looking for with Juju Brents there as well. He's going to be a massive asset. Good player. Pick number 16 for the Broncos. Staying winning. Mr. Unlimited is winning. Now, looking at the players on the board, we can go Keon Coleman here. I mean, I don't disagree with the fact that that could be a massive addition. But we also have, like, literally players in my top 10 that are top tier edge rushers that you could totally add. Now, you could be pretty confident with what you do have currently. And maybe it's time to just get a weapon like Keon Coleman that, he is a blue chip X receiver. You don't always want Cortland Sutton, even though, again, I'm biased, because I'm an SMU student and Cortland Sutton's former SMU Mustang. Like, you don't always want Cortland Sutton to be your primary option. That's a relatively limited upside option. Keon Coleman's not. So we're going to send Keon Coleman here, and I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on it. Of course, there's so much subject to, over the offseason, we're going to see a lot of changes. But for the time being, Keon Coleman would be the addition to have here at 16, because you're also, sorry, Bengals fans, disarming the Bengals. But at pick number 17, I'm in the mood for some Rome Odunze on this squad. I think he could be a great addition. Looking at other spots where I would be willing to target, offensive line, you could get Graham Barton and he could play pretty much anywhere that you need him to. That is kind of coveted in terms of the value. I might be comfortable waiting to the next round for that. Other positions of note, pretty much for me, it's offensive line and wide receiver, because you have T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd up. Part of me just really wants to appease my inner Brett Coleman and just allow Rome to be a Bengal, because he loves the idea of Rome being a Bengal. I'm going to do it. For the sake of changing up some things. All roads lead to Rome. Rome's also coming off a pretty hot week as well, over 100 yards. And I'm pretty sure, because Michael Penix only threw like 140 yards this past week, he threw 5 big-time throws while doing that. Just got to put that out there. Like, how the hell do you even do that? But, he did it. Then Rome had over 100 of those yards. So, got to give a shout-out to Rome Odunze. When Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan had 0 yards, Rome Odunze carried the team. And, again, this is a team that probably will need either someone in the slot or the boundary. And they are looking for more and more firepower. Rome Odunze is a good way to start. And we are going to be, of course, drafting offensive line for that team. Don't worry. At pick number 18 for the Bills, this is an easy one. It's Cooper DeJean. Straight up. Y'all kicked the Jets' ass, and I was very happy to see that, because y'all needed some sort of momentum. People were kind of calling you all fakers, posers, etc. Josh Allen was more decisive than Saleh expected, and it's a good defense to put up a lot of points on, to be fair. So y'all did a good job. We'll leave it there. Pick number 19 for the Saints. There are no more quarterbacks I think are worth first-round picks. J.J. McCarthy this past week, 0 touchdowns, 4 turnover-worthy plays versus what is it? Maryland. Ooh. Yeah, that's not good. 0 big-time throws. It's not like you had like 3 big-time throws and 4 turnover-worthy plays, which I still would say is a stock-down move. Legitimately, there's nothing positive and only legitimately very negative plays. For that reason, I am going to be looking to add into the edge rushing group. Primarily due to, you could go Malik. I know you guys haven't drafted an LSU player like the past 25 years, especially this high. But, looking at it, you have unbelievable options. I think Malik Neighbors in the right system, especially in a Rashid Shaheed role, which he's up for a contract, could be creme de la creme type of move. Apparently, that's not going to be the case. So, next best thing, let's get Jared Verse. 260 pounds, freak athlete. He does belong on this team. You could go Leatu Latu because y'all do love the freak athletes, but I don't think you're going to be able to go a incorrect route with the Saints at this moment with the guys who are on the board. At pick number 20, so again, Vikings, I mean, it was down to the wire. Y'all lost by 1 point. That's a good game. It was a good game. Josh Dobbs still had his magic in him. Quinn Ewers, 99% sure he's going to return, if not already committed to returning. Jordan Travis fractured his freaking leg. Joe Milton's been an absolute bum. Just got to call it out as it is, man. I mean, this guy's throwing 5 yards per catch, and he has 0 big-time throws and 1 turnover-worthy play on 140 yards this past week. I mean, I know it's versus Georgia, but come on. Seriously, you got to put the ball down the field. If you have an arm that can throw 90 yards, throw it down the field. I know it's not just his fault, but there's a lot going on. Shedeur Sanders, he didn't even put it up this week. So, normally I do consider Shedeur as returning, and I still think he will because next year's quarterback class is not too bueno, and I feel like Daddy Prime's going to keep him there. For that reason, I am going to actually look at a couple options here. Again, Amarius Mims also considered returning in this. For me, I think that, Dalton Reiser's been such a good addition for y'all. I hope y'all re-sign him. Graham Barton could be a good pick, and if you guys don't go that route. For this, I'm going to assume that he does. Therefore, I know that y'all don't go edge rusher early very often, if ever. But sometimes it's okay to go BPA. It is. And you like guys who are freak athletes. And Leatu Latu is exactly that. He feels like a Minnesota Viking. And, he just had 9 pressures this past week. He's been having pretty much 9 pressures every damn week. Unbelievable length. For me, still trying to sell myself on him. And I'm starting to see it more and more. The more I watch him, the more I do love it. And that's good. Because it's one of those players where I know I have a very strong inclination that my gut feeling is wrong. And so I'm forcing myself to love a player. But, just the statistics, you look at it and measurables, immeasurables, they're all there. You see it. So Leatu Latu is going to be a massive addition for the Vikings who have multiple key edge rushers up for contracts. Pick number 21. Speaking of a team that could use some edge rushing help, we have the Cardinals here. Dallas Turner could be a great addition. Braylon Trice. I think Braylon Trice deserves a little bit more credit than what we're giving him. You already have someone who's about 250 pounds of BJ Ojolari, who has one of the highest pressure rates or pass rush win rates in all the rookies, if not the highest. I'm going to go Braylon Trice here. We're going to stay into the Pac-12 and just get someone of unbelievable size and edge bending ability. You need someone who can help defend the run as well. So I don't like the defensive interior options. We'll have plenty of those later on. This is a guy who I feel comfortable with. Pick number 22. So Seahawks, quarterback, probably on my short list of things to get you. Unfortunately, no quarterbacks that are worth it. So looking at other options for you. Linebacker, there's just nobody who's worth it. There's not. You got Peyton Wilson. Oh, finally, they got Peyton Wilson in here. Hallelujah. I got to ask one thing. Did they put my boy in here, Dwight McLaughlin? Or is the disrespect going to fucking continue? Unbelievable. Anywho, I think this team is just so poised to kick ass, and they're just not doing it because they don't have a quarterback. And there's just not a quarterback here, except J.J. McCarthy. And it's like what else am I going to do? This team doesn't need much except linebacker and quarterback for the most part. Do you know what? With the aging safeties on roster, I'm going to have them deal with some shit. I've been falling in love with the Tyler Nubin pick. I've seen it in a couple mock drafts now. I'm actually loving it. He is built to be a Seattle Seahawk. I don't know why. There's that intangibility that says this guy is built to be a Seattle Seahawk. And I'm not going to tell it to shut up. It is going to continue to sing. That voice that's telling me it, I'm going to let it sing because this guy, He's built to be a Seahawk. Big hitter, consistent, versatile, rangy, great size, all the above. At pick number 23, another team that could use a quarterback, my Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, it's not good. It's just not. It's not a good time for us. Like, we should be losing every game from this point out. I already know we're gonna lose. We're gonna win a couple more, so we aren't 500, or we're just above 500, and we're gonna end up right around where the Bengals are right now. I already know it. It's infuriating, to be honest. But I want to look at corner primarily. Looking at the guys who are available, I think Denzel Burke, Terrion Arnold, Josh Newton, those are all great options, as well as my favorite Dwight McLaughlin. I don't think Dwight would be selected in this range. However, I might force him in here sometime soon because I do love him. He's continuing to produce. He's a great player. I think the Steelers need DB help, and so I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to go Denzel Burke. He just has been very, very solid. Injuries have been the only thing that's been a negative for him. He had a little bit of a slip up last year, but he's started to bounce back. He ended off the year well, and he's continuing to play well overall. Malik Neighbors still on the board. Again, someone who I absolutely adore, especially in the right system. This might be the right system. You do not have, for the Texans, a legitimate wide receiver who's built to be a 4-3 deep threat. Tank Dell's a beast. He beats people, and he somehow is an effective deep threat at 4.5 flat. He ran a 4.5. I don't know how to be fair, we are all shocked. We're like, what? I thought this guy was going to run the 4.3s. But Malik Neighbors fits a role that this team does not actually have statistically. It's 6 foot, roughly 200 pounds, deep threat speed at probably 4.3, and then unbelievable after the catch. That's something this team doesn't exactly have, and something that I kind of want to equip them with. It is best player available. When your quarterback like CJ Stroud has become, as he pretty much used to preach for himself, a ball placement specialist, especially on those beautiful deep balls like this past week. Speaking of Tank Dell, it's worth getting him the weapons to let him just cook. So Malik Neighbors is going to be the pick. At pick number 25, we have the Dolphins. And I'm going to get versatility. That's where I'm going to target first. Graham Barton's still on the board. I'm getting all forms of versatility on that offensive line. If he ends up working out as a tackle, great. If not, he's going to fit somewhere, and he's going to be an addition nonetheless. At pick number 26 for the Cowboys, you got Dallas Turner here, which I do have a nice edit of Dallas Turner. Granted, his arms are chopped off in it, but, it is what it is. Like, I literally have my number, he's now my number 5 player because I dropped Johnny Wilson and Talise, mainly because Johnny hasn't been healthy, and Talise, I already discussed it. But this team's looking for primarily left tackle of the future, center of the future. Graham Barton would have been great. Marius Mims considered returning in this. Just got to put that out there again. Could try to upgrade the defensive interior. I don't feel like that's an awful idea. It would be kind of weird to go defensive interior back-to-back first rounds. I do think that corner is another option. Again, I know that there's some very, very opinionated people, including my buddy Mark Murata down in the comment section, who would absolutely despise that pick. Of course, I don't make picks based on what people despise or not. Just got to put that out there as well. For me, I wish Troy Fautanu were a better left tackle because I would take him here. I really would. I think he would be a great addition. But with that being said, I think this team needs a little bit more youth and a little bit more upside in the edge room besides Micah. D-Law is getting older, and he's just consistent. But, Sam Williams hasn't been reliable. I mean, I'm slipping up right now. I haven't even heard his name in forever. But the edge rushing room could use an actual addition. And I'm going to go Chop Robinson here. I saw it once and I didn't like the pick. And I think there are a lot of other needs that this team has. But given the fact that we can't trade out and there's no linebackers that I think are available that are good, the cornerbacks, I've already tested that theory multiple times. And then center is just not worth it at this point. This is the pick with the most upside. He needs years to develop. He's going to be an instant impact as a pass rusher, but to be a true 3-down starter, he needs to be an understudy to Micah for a while. And that's a luxury that y'all have. So Chop Robinson will be a nice addition. If you had Malik Neighbors there, that would have been another pick of mine. Pick number 27 for San Francisco. Corner primarily is the way to go. Offensive line as well. For me, I'm actually looking at Troy Fautanu here. And the fact that he's played tackle is a bonus because you can train him to continue playing tackle. But I think this dude's going to be a star interior offensive lineman. He's my number 26 player on the board. To change things up, we're going to be going Troy Fautanu out of Washington. At pick number 28, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Dallas Turner's here. Emeka Ibuka's here. Like, to me, let's go after a wide receiver. I also have Christian Haynes on the board, who I really, really love. I think that Ezra Cleveland's addition via trade will probably be the nail in the coffin on that dream. But Emeka Ibuka is the guy who I'm going to go with here. He might not be a true number one, but I feel like in combination, if you bring Calvin Ridley back, I feel like in combination with him, there's going to be a lot of upside there as a duo. I hope that he can end up being a true wide receiver one. I think his talent level could be essentially a wide receiver one. We just haven't seen him in that role, and it's not his fault. I mean, he's played with the likes of Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., like Jack Smith and Jigba. Like, there's been a lot of dudes who he's played with where he hasn't really had the opportunity to be solely on his own. So we'll see what happens. But, the talent itself, it screams, I'm unbelievable. And let it scream, man. Let it scream. Pick number 29. I really want Dallas Turner to be off the board. He's not going to be. I always go corner for this team, and I'm going to continue to hammer corner. That being said, I'm going to go after another corner that I don't normally go for this team. That's Terrion Arnold. Alabama corner worked once before with Marlon Humphrey. Let's go back to it with Terrion Arnold, who honestly has a relatively similar skill set. At pick number 30, I'm down to 2 players for the Lions. I'm down to defensive end, or edge. I don't know why I said defensive end because he's not even an edge. He's an outside linebacker in Dallas Turner. It's going to definitely be a positive addition. But on the other side of the ball, the other side of the line, we have Christian Haynes. Both would be valued additions. I think this edge rusher class doesn't comp close to the value I'd get for Dallas Turner with the next pick. Granted, there's not many guards that will be close to Christian Haynes' upside, but I do think the talent level of Dallas Turner is worth taking. At pick number 31 for the Chiefs, I did this before, and I think I'm going to do it again. Leonard Taylor is by far the best upside at defensive interior. He just hasn't been playing well. The defensive interior class really did fall off a cliff. Looking at other weapons that could be great. I mean, again, Johnny Wilson's here. He's had some drops, yes. I mean, this dude, whenever he comes back, it's always after an injury or at the start of a season, this dude has drop issues. As long as this guy's on the jugs machine, he is your future tight end. He's your future wide receiver one. There's a chance for him to be either. And to me, that is worth taking. He is still in my top 10, and I'm going to continue letting him be there. I do think Leonard Taylor would be a great choice, but Johnny Wilson, if you're going to criticize his performance, ain't no way you can't consider Leonard Taylor to be a better performer, because he really hasn't been. At pick number 32 for the Eagles, and ending off the first round, I have Cam Kitchens here. If you end up not keeping Kevin Byard, who's played quite a few reps in the box, this is a great idea. It's probably the way I'm going to go. I haven't ever gone Cam Kitchens for this team, or maybe I did once a while ago. Looking at the edge rushers, there are some really good players here. Landon Jackson's on my watch list, so I'm excited to be able to get some more tape on him. I think there's enough edge rush help there for the Eagles with our next picks, because that is a huge need. I think edge rusher, corner, linebacker, again, future tackle in case of Lane Johnson retirement. Those are all valid concerns. But Kevin Byard, not mistaken, can be released in this offseason, especially if we get Cam Kitchens on the board. Cam Kitchens times what you already have in Sidney Brown. That could be a nasty duo there for John Desai. Pick number 33 for the Panthers. Normally go wide receiver for this team. Probably going to be the case again. I just think this team needs a wide receiver one, and the best chance at that is going to be A.D. Mitchell or Xavier Legette. Troy Franklin's starting to make another push to be put in this range, and I don't think that's a bad idea. But for the time being, I'm going to be going Xavier Legette, who I still need to put and factor into my board. At pick number 34 for the Cardinals, wide receiver is already, it would be actually a pretty good move to go after someone like Troy Franklin here. He could combine with Hollywood Brown, Michael Wilson, etc. very, very well. With that being said, we've already addressed defensive line. I want to double check. We got Cooley McKinstry as well as an edge rusher in Braylon Trice. Look who's on the board. Got Leonard Taylor. But you don't even have just Leonard Taylor. You also have Chris Jenkins, who's technically performing better, but Leonard Taylor has more upside. Regardless, you're getting an upgrade. So for me, I'll go Leonard Taylor. We'll be happy with Leonard Taylor. No complaints here. At pick number 35 for the Patriots. A.D. Mitchell could be a very good wide receiver one for this team. Looking at the tackles available, again, I'm having a Marius return. You got to protect Drake May, and Jordan Morgan has been extremely consistent. I got to give the nod to the only other dude who I think would probably start day one at left tackle. At pick number 36, so right tackle still in need. Again, Amarius Mims returning in this. Tyler Guyton is here, and it is worth taking a swing on him. I do see some other teams in the range that could be in the mood to go after, a tackle. I don't really think another edge rusher is going to come off the board, so I'm going to go after the upside with Tyler Guyton. We do need edge rusher, but we will be getting it soon. Cardinals. Oh, I keep forgetting. I'm like, I thought we had a bunch of third-round picks. Of course we do, but this is only 2 rounds all at once. We have now addressed defensive interior, edge rusher, corner. Let's look at some other positions here. So I'm looking potentially getting Chris Jenkins and just doubling up and getting probably the best defensive front youth-wise in all of the NFL, because you get your pass rush upside with Taylor and your run stuffing upside with Chris Jenkins. But, you could go another corner here. You could go Kamari, but I don't feel like the corner core needs that much help. Again, I've already addressed it, but the wide receiver core, you could get A.D. Mitchell in there, and I think that would be a very nice. He could look really good in a Cardinals uni. I will admit, he would look good in a Cardinals uniform. But your biggest hole is that defensive interior. And you got Tavondre Sweat here too. You got Chris Jenkins, Tavondre Sweat. You can't go wrong with either one. You really can't. So, choose whichever one you want. Tavondre's more consistent statistically than Chris, but at the same time, he's probably playing worse offensive lineman. It's up to you. I'm going to go Chris Jenkins here because I always go Tavondre now before him. And, imagine having the 2 best defensive interior linemen on the worst defensive interior. Sounds pretty good to me. At pick number 38, we started off with an Olu Fashanu pick here for the Titans. A.D. Mitchell. Tell me that's not a good pick. I know corner. Y'all been saying corner actually quite a bit. And I do think you guys should be looking for a boundary corner. I'm not mistaken, Christian Fulton's up for a contract. And, it would not be a negative to have a top-tier corner like Josh Newton, who is very consistent, very good in man-to-man coverage on your roster. At pick number 39, we talked about going after edge rusher with our last pick. We didn't do it. This pick, we are. My next edge on my board is Xavier Thomas, but after that, you got Jonah Ellis in there. You got Princely. You got JT. JT fits the size build best. He does, and he's a great player. Got to give him credit where credit is due. He is not as great, I think, as maybe now his super supporters say he is. I was his apologist for a hot minute there, but he's well worth the number 39 pick for a team that's definitely looking for a larger edge rusher. At pick number 40, speaking of a team that could have used a larger edge rusher, we have the Falcons, who drafted Bo Nix with their first pick. At this point, again, I'm all for just continuing to boost that edge rushing room. I forgot how large Landon Jackson is because I want to show him some love. Holy shit. 280. Whose man's? He's a good player. He hasn't been consistent in terms of his statistics, but, this is that one Alabama game where he just absolutely lit it up. I'm going to go Chris Braswell here. I think that's the right move. This team is still looking for an edge rusher in the long run. You got Bud Dupree's up for a contract. Came in and now is up for a contract. So you do need extra edge rush juice. This team is pretty much solid all around now. I don't really see too many issues with it. At pick number 41 for the Green Bay Packers, we address offensive tackle with Talise Fuaga. We could honestly get A.D. Mitchell here. I do think having a true wide receiver one that would be more of the X build is better for the overall offense. Now you can have Romeo Doubs as kind of the backup version of A.D. Mitchell, especially for if you go 4 wide. That'd be nice to have them all in the field. But You got Jaden Reed, who's primarily the smaller slot deep threat. And then you have Christian Watson, who is the bigger deep threat. In simplistic terms, AD Mitchell will complement them very, very well. He has very sure hands, and that's kind of a bonus that you don't have at the moment. At pick number 42 for the Buccaneers, we have drafted a quarterback in Michael Penix. And at this pick, again, Marius Mims is returning. He would have went a long time ago. Get your head out of the gutter. I do think that we could develop Kamari Lassiter at this point. He is essentially worth developing. Looking at the other options, you could go Kingsley Suamataia and train him to be a future at right tackle. He's been playing left, but naturally he looks so much better at right tackle. I think that would be a very smart move for the franchise. You could, of course, look at the edge rushing room. You could try to target Landon Jackson and see what the hell happens. I've done Princely Umamulan plenty of times, so to change things up, I actually really like the idea of developing Kingsley Suamataia either at left or right tackle, wherever you want to develop your blind side. For me, I would be kicking Tristan Wirfs back to right tackle and then seeing if Kingsley could end up fitting at left. He did end up just coming off a zero pressure week, so he's getting better, but I still have my doubts. At pick number 43 for the Packers again, we just drafted AD Mitchell. We also have Tulise Fuaga. I do think a running back could be in order at this pick because I don't feel like you have that many issues on your team. However, safety, Billy Bowman, this dude just had a crazy week. Not a crazy week. No, who was that with a crazy week? There's some random corner that just had 2 interceptions and 3 pass breakups. Got to give him some credit. He'll be a star of the week, so feel free to stick around for that. But I think Billy Bowman, Rod Moore had a poor week this week. He was their lowest defensive graded player from Michigan. Kalen Bullock, I absolutely adore. So he's probably my more likely option. And he has a little bit of a better frame than Billy Bowman, who's a slot/free safety. But, it's somebody who will probably be featured in this. So Kalen Bullock is going to be the selection for right now, but got to throw that name in there. At pick number 44, we got Trezon Newton for the Chargers in the first. At this pick, I'm going to go Kamari Lassiter to get a boundary corner number 2. The value is great. And, hopefully you get some new coaching in there, but it is what it is. Kamari Lassiter and Johnny Newton, kind of a dream 1-2. Pick number 45, another team that could have probably used Kamari Lassiter, but got Nate Wiggins instead, is the Rams. And for the Rams, TJ Tampa would have been great too. Looking at some future options here, you could end up taking a swing on JJ McCarthy and seeing what happens. Again, back-to-back really, really poor weeks scared the hell out of me. I'm looking at Princely Umamulan, and I'm saying, hey, this guy has a ton of potential here. Definitely high up on my list to test out. You could try to take Karan Amajaje, but a torn ACL coming from Yale, like the upside's there. You get Marius Mims not coming out in this. You got to get your head out of the gutter. I think that the right move would probably be to go to the defensive line or linebacker. And linebacker, there is some extra depth in there. Defensive line, not so much. I will be actually targeting Princely Umamulan for this team. He has really, really good bend. He has instant push. Regardless of whether he actually gets the sacks or not in the NFL, he is going to at least make an impact on the pocket. At pick number 46, Jaden Daniels has now become the commander of the Raiders. It would have been cool if I said the commander of the Commanders, but that's a topic for another day. For the Raiders, at this spot, looking at what would fit you best, defensive interior, I think would be the way to go. You got Tavondre Sweat here. That's unbelievable value. I take him in the first round, and I'm very happy. You get to have a first-round player here. Good players fall. It just happens. And in this case, it did. At pick number 47 for the Colts, we ended up seeing that we drafted Kalen King in the first round. So at this pick, we could look to get a developmental offensive tackle here. I don't think I'm going to do that. You could look at a tight end, honestly, because Jatavian Sanders is good value at this point. Wide receiver, you could also look at Troy Franklin to be a good deep threat. Brian Thomas could be a really good deep threat to replace Alec Pierce. Still pains me to say that. But, is what it is. I could be looking for that safety in Billy Bowman right here. He does play free safety. I think that would be a very good addition. And, he has been extremely consistent, very statistically sound. Like, just to me, one of those guys who's definitely worth it. So yeah, this past week versus BYU, he's coming off an absolute baller week. It's worth taking a shot on. Christian Haynes here as well. He's a guy I need to start drafting earlier again. I really do. I do need to draft him earlier. But for the time being, I could even go another corner here in TJ Tampa, but I am going to opt out of that. We are going to be going Billy Bowman Jr. here out of Oklahoma to be the rangy, versatile safety to pair up with Kalen King. Pick number 48. Another team that could have been open to Billy Bowman is right here with the New Orleans Saints. We went after an edge rusher in Latu in the first round. At this point, you could get a developmental safety for sure. I would not be against going after Javon Bullard here and letting him rest and see where he can end up replacing one of our veterans. But other positions to target, tight end is, in my opinion, in the mix. I know a lot of people are saying now offensive tackle. I don't disagree, but those tackle contracts are bad. I am looking at the defensive interior, and it's not looking great, to be fair. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to be going after a high upside interior defensive lineman in Byron Murphy II. Revamp your defensive line because with all these young quarterbacks in your division, giving them pressure is the best way to be able to flip the field for your defense. Pick number 49 for the Bengals. This is a pretty easy one. You got Jatavian Sanders here. I want to double check, but we got Rome Odunze with that first round pick. We can get Jatavian Sanders here with this one. At pick number 50 for the Bills, we end up getting Cooper DeJean. Kind of the best pick that could have happened. Double checking my facts here. That's true. With Cooper DeJean on the board, I don't see any more right tackles that I'm very comfortable with. Again, Amari Smims is returning. The right tackle wise, not over the moon about what's available. Just not over the moon. It's not that great. So other positions to target, I do like your linebacking core actually quite a bit. You could go a boundary corner here in TJ Tampa because this team just continues to need corners, and it's pretty rough out there. In terms of the weather, it's not good. People do get hurt a lot. However, Troy Franklin's on the board. I feel like he needs to go at this point. He is a star receiver. Honestly, might have been my next pick for the Eagles. But for the Eagles, we have already drafted a star safety. I am going to be drafting a potential star cornerback here. We got TJ Tampa. That's the guy who I really want to pull the trigger on. Landon Jackson, though. This guy fits a 281. He needs to slim down a little bit. We don't need another BG on our roster. But this guy could be the future at our edge rushing position. I also want to highlight quite a few other guys. Jasheen Davis is a really good option. Also, like looking at my board, Xavier Thomas fits the bill. I feel like that would be a great third-round selection for the Eagles or the next pick that we have with the Eagles. So given the fact that I have quite a few guys I'm comfortable with that fit the size frame of the Eagles and what they're looking for, a linebacker, also kind of a huge issue. Junior Colson would be great here. I just don't trust Howie to do that. I do trust Howie to look at TJ Tampa and being like, wow, it's him and Dwight McLaughlin at this point. And TJ Tampa has been statistically unbelievable and very reliable. He is well deserving of being selected here. He's been a corner select at the end of the first for the Eagles plenty of times. And, for me, that's well worth this pick. At pick number 52 for the Vikings, it's wild to say this, but J.J. McCarthy's here. Now it might be worth it. Let's go. Let's do it, right? Might as well. Oh, y'all got Law too. The Saints got Verse. My bad. My mistake. Regardless, got both really good edge rushers. J.J. McCarthy is going to be the pick. That's worth spending on because he's also had some very high peaks. He's just also had some really low lows. At pick number 53 for the Texans, I kind of took away a lot of the players who I was excited to take for the Texans, but that's okay. We got Malik Neighbors in the first round. Again, defensive interior, probably the place I want to go. And you got Dante Corleone here. That's worth it. He has unbelievable pass rushing upside. Already looks good in a very dark plus red colorway. So you already know he's going to look freaking fired there in those unis. But more importantly, he is going to be a massive plug up the middle. He's about 320 pounds. He's going to be a massive plug as well as a high upside pass rusher. Great push on the pocket. Pick number 54 for the Giants. Defensive interior, edge rusher, wide receiver. That's where we probably need to go. So looking at those three, what's available? You got Brian Thomas here. Do you want him to be your wide receiver one? I don't know if he's earned that right. Jalen Polk. He just came off a 0-yard week, but of course, that's when his offense threw 140 yards. So, understandable. He also had 5 targets, I think, in that game. So, he was open maybe. But looking at the other options here, edge rusher, Jonah Ellis is going to be a great addition over Azeez Ojulari. I think that's going to be the best play here. He is my number 32 player in the draft. Looking at the defensive interiors, you got Brandon Dorlus here. If you want to replace Leonard Williams, that'd be a cool choice. Mason Smith, he's been super under the radar in terms of his overall play. You got Tyleik Williams as well. There's a lot of defensive interiors that are still available that are good. So with that all being said, I'm going to go after the one position that I think has the least amount of talent at your next pick, and that's going to be with Jonah Ellis out of Utah here. At pick number 55 for the Steelers, I'm looking at Jackson Powers-Johnson and Christian Haynes and getting very excited. Like, the value is excellent here. Could have gotten Christian Haynes here as well for the Giants. Got to put that out there. But, Jackson Powers-Johnson's coming off a week where he had 0 pressures. He's been super consistent for a first-year starter. I would not be surprised to see him go back to school. But the Steelers ended up going a corner in round number 1. Could go a linebacker here and get the first linebacker off the board, but instead we are going to be going after Jackson Powers-Johnson. At pick number 56 for the Browns, you got your quarterback of the future. No need to go after that. Running backs, hopefully everybody comes back fully healthy. But I think ultimately what you need to do is replace that safety room. And this is just not the right draft for y'all. Defensive interior wise, you're probably going to look for someone with some pass rush upside. That is where you're going to draft Mason Smith. At pick number 57 for the Miami Dolphins, we drafted offensive line with Graham Barton in the first round. At this selection, safety is where I love to go. Linebacker as well. We've had 0 linebackers come off the board, but at the same time, this linebacker class it does have some actually really good players, but I do think that it is semi-limited. I honestly like the idea of getting Javon Bullard here and having him develop and essentially be the Brandon Jones replacement. Super versatile, very rangy, ball hawk, type of guy who I would want in my secondary. At pick number 58 for the Cowboys, we drafted an edge rusher in the first round. I know. I'm already hearing it. We're going to draft a corner here. Yes, I do know there's other needs on this team, but this is going to be a top 32 player for me, in fact, with Dwight McGlothern out of Arkansas. So Max Melton will take the ADP boost because PFF still doesn't have him in here. But Dwight McGlothern, it is. You're essentially getting 2 key cornerstones for the future. It depends if you want to win now or not. I know a lot of y'all do. With Leighton Vander Esch, I don't know if he's going to be coming back for a hot minute. You could certainly look at linebacker, but this is a pretty deep linebacker class. Not top talent or top heavy for sure. It's definitely back heavy. So you have that luxury to wait. At pick number 59 for the Niners, we went offensive line earlier. Could have honestly done it in this round, but looking at the corners available, I do love Kalen Carson. I'm debating on Chris Abrams' drain here. He's been playing boundary. He's about 180 pounds. Where is he at now? Yeah, he's about 180 pounds. He probably will opt as a slot, but he's been playing really good ball as a boundary corner, and he will be a corner number 2. To me, that might be worth taking a swing on. Quinyon Mitchell, I'm not there with him yet. I'm not there yet. But looking at other positions they could target, it's a super loaded roster, so not many. For me, I'm gonna go after, I'm gonna go after the one of my favorite players in the draft, and that is Kalen Carson's here. He has just a much better build. We're gonna go after Kalen Carson. I've done it before for y'all, so it's like it is kind of more muscle memory. And the fact is, I don't really need to go after a slot corner for you over the value of a potential true boundary corner in Kalen Carson. At pick number 60, I just want to say screw you to Ezra Cleveland, and we're going to go Christian Haynes. Top 10 player on my board, or top 12 player on my board. Is he number 11? He's my number 11 player. So he's my number 11 player on the board. I just don't see people drafting a Connecticut guard this early. That's the only reason I have him fallen so far. It sucks, but it is what it is. At pick number 61 for the Ravens, we drafted a corner in round number 1, in Terrion Arnold. At this pick, defensive interior, it's a good move, but I'm actually going to look at running back. I know Keaton Mitchell is going to be an absolute baller on this roster, but I kind of want some lightning and thunder here, And I'm going to go Trey Benson out of Florida State. At pick number 62 for the Detroit Lions, we went after, what do we do for the Lions in the first round? Dallas Turner. Somehow, some way, top 5 player fell. It is what it is. It's the NFL draft. But at this selection, I am looking at the corner room because I do like Chris Williams-Drain, but unfortunately, it's a little too small for me to consider him a true boundary. And we already have a future at the slot/safety position. And then offensive line. I mean, there's some really good players here. Cooper Beebe could be an absolute steal. Defensive interior as well. I mean, we're looking for upside at pass rusher. Ruka Rorho, it's coming off a 3-pressure week. Tyleek Williams, apparently he's 290 pounds now, but this dude's consistently putting up numbers, except for this week. But conversation for another day. We're going to go, we'll go Cooper Beebe. He's been doing a great job. Oh, Zach Zinter, we need to go Michigan. He's allowing 0 pressures per game as well. Like, this dude's been more consistent than Cooper Beebe. So, got to give love to Zach Zinter. He's going to be a massive addition in the run game, too. And he fits the right guard mold and not the left. It just works. At pick number 63, we got Johnny Wilson for the Chiefs in the first round. I don't feel like we're kind of losing out here because Brandon Dorlus and Ruka Rorho are here, as well as a plethora of other dudes. We'll go Brandon Dorlus to show him some love, even though I think I've already done that multiple times for the Chiefs. It literally works so well, and I know my Chiefs fans do love that option. At pick number 64, and ending off the draft, we have the Eagles here. I think I might go the first linebacker of the class because y'all need it desperately. And we're going to go Junior Colson here, 247 pounds at 6'3". He is overall the best talent, and he's my number 1 linebacker graded right there. So that is going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching and showing your love as always. See you on the far side.